going great.
And welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. We are in a mystery thriller. We're here with Tom Straw, author Tom Straw. He's got a new novel out. We're talking about it. We're kind of digging into the world of spies and top secret lives of celebrity chefs. The book is called Accidental Joe, The Top Secret Life of a Chef. Tom gave us the soundtrack. We took you out with the James Bond theme, which when I think of Tom, I think this theme is this music soundtrack's playing around him all the time. His life is like James Bond. And we're listening now to Steely Dan's Josie. We came back in with that. Why did you pick that song, Tom?
Well, it first of all, I love it. It's first of all one of the greatest albums ever made. I don't care what anybody says. And also the song Josie talks about the raw flame, the live wire, and I kind of like had that in my head when I did a scene in the book where Pike is in Chef Pike, my main character. He's in Arles in France, south of France, and he and his producer, who's really a CIA agent, are trying to research a mission. So she's very busy talking to the French security people and all that on the phone in the hotel suite, which has a little kitchen. So he goes out and he scrounges up food to make a very untraditional salad niçoise. And so what he does, he gets some potatoes and he has the clarified butter to brown them in, and he's got the melty onion and the peppers and the herbs, but he still needs the tuna. So he went to, it was late at night, so he went to a restaurant that served tuna, and he did selfies in the kitchen because he's a famous chef. They all, for a picture, they would give him a piece of tuna that he then raw that he took back to the apartment. But the apartment stove was not proper for putting a nice sear on the tuna. So what he did was he called back a lesson he learned from an old French chef one day at his hunting lodge. That what you do is you slice the fish very thin, you poke it with a fork, so you have it like a skewer, like you're going to do marshmallows, right? And you hold it over the raw flame of a candle, and you sort of pass it over the candle until it gets that char on it and it's still rare on the inside, and you're done. And so that I call the raw flame method of cooking. So that's from Josie, the raw flame, the live wire.
It all ties together. Do you think in music soundtracks when you write, Tom? Do you think
A lot
about
of times.
do you have
Yeah.
lyrics and soundtracks going as you're writing scenes?
Yeah. One thing you may not know about me is that prior to doing TV writing, I was a disc jockey. And so I played the Frisky Discs for about 10 or 12 years before I became a TV writer. So I was really into music. I did album rock. I did top 40, I do that. Actually, truth be told, I listen mostly to classical when I'm writing because anything with lyrics just while I'm writing distracts me. Now in the car, it's a different story. I'm cranking, the radio to hear when I'm not listening to Jeremiah Higgins. I'm listening to classic vinyl or the bridge or something like that.
I was wondering how you were going to work that in and how I could pay you for that.
Yeah, yeah.
For the plug, Tom Straw. That's great. Thank you for saying that. But do you think were there any scenes that you wrote in your new novel that were inspired by lyrics like, well, you just gave an example of one by Josie Steely Dan. Were there other scenes that inspired you that
Yeah, I mean,
you borrowed from lyrics, or that they sparked something in your mind?
yeah, there's this is really off speed, but "Eat It" by Weird Al. Because there's a scene later, and I'll talk about it. I have a passage to read later if you want to hear it, but it's about eating something that's kind of like extraordinary to be eating, and it's not gross, but it's a little off-putting to some people, and so like I kept thinking about "Eat It" while I was writing that. So
Okay, I'm glad you
funny.
explained that, because when I looked through the set list that you gave me, the playlist, I'm like, how does it Eat It fit? How did that fit in there?
I'll
By
get to
Weird
that.
Al. Yeah.
Yes.
So listen to this. Alton Brown, he's a culinary personality, but He's also a spy, apparently. He's got a great TV show. Tom Straw, he says of Tom Straw, Tom Straw has set the bar for culinary, espionage, travel thrillers. And actually, I think he invented the bar. And it's a bar I'd meet him at any time.
I'm for
Sounds
that.
like you guys are good friends.
Yeah, we are. You know, we met, about 12 years ago, and I had an idea for here's the thing. I was a huge fan of Good Eats and Iron Chef America, and I had an idea for a culinary talk show. And I went to my agent, and I said, you know, I have an idea for this thing I'd like to do. And I told her the idea. And she says, well, that's great. It really depends on the host. She said, who would you want? And I said, well, there's only one person I'd really want. And I don't know if he'd ever do it. It's Alton Brown. And she looked at me and goes, oh, well, he's the client. So she set up a meeting with me and Alton. So I flew to
Wow.
and we spent midday together at the place where he shot Good Eats, which was kind of fun. And it's one of those things. Sometimes you meet people and you feel like you've met an old friend, and that's the way it was with him. And we've been very good friends ever since. He read an early draft of The Accidental Joe, and his only comment was, "Those knives suck. He would never use those." So I won't mention the brand he was using, but I went back and I researched a better quality of knife, which, as you know, is very important in the show.
Yes.
Um,
That's
but
credibility right there. That could have ruined the
yeah,
credibility of your character, huh? The
yeah, I'm
knives.
telling you, it's fun to say that, but it's true. I
Hmm.
I spend I spend a lot of time researching. I try to go everywhere that the story takes place. Like this book takes place in the beginning. It's in Paris, and then they move to Provence in the south of France. And I have been to those places, and whenever I travel, I take a lot of notes and a lot of pictures. And so when I was here during the pandemic writing this book, I was able to refer to photographic stimulation, if you will, of Nice and of Arles and of Marseille and some of the other places in the book. Aigues-Mortes, if you remember, that's the old castle that's in the thing.
Hmm.
Um, so I really lean on what's real, because I think if you make it real for the reader, absolutely enhances their investment in the story, and they feel like this isn't somebody just saying stuff.
Absolutely. Did you go? That was one of my thoughts when I was reading this. Did you go to some of these kitchens? You took pictures. You said you wrote, you
Yeah,
took great notes, and
there's
you traveled. But did you actually go into some of these chefs' kitchens or similar kitchens?
Yeah, and they chased me out with a hatchet. A meat cleaver. Hey, get out of here! Who are you? I certainly went to many or most of the restaurants.
Yeah,
There's a
I was gonna say, did you immerse yourself like in that life a little bit?
Absolutely, and you know what? I love doing that. And again, a part of the appeal to writing for me, writing novels for me, even though it's fiction, is I like to learn. I want to I want to know more when I finish the book than I did when I started it. And there's a huge scene that you may recall at Colombe d'Or in the Saint Paul de Vence, which is up in the hills above Nice. And I've been to that restaurant, and it is, I even have references to things like when the vegetable basket comes, there's so much in it. And when I was there, there was a German family sitting at the next table, and when the basket of vegetables came, the father picked up a whole head of celery and he held it to his head like a telephone and started talking on the phone. And I thought, okay, I've got to use this. It's a real moment. I've got to use this in the book. Um, all of the art that's there, people, Picasso would go there, and Miro, and they would, in exchange, they didn't have money. They were starving artists. They would draw a sketch or paint a little painting and give it to the owner of the restaurant in exchange for meals and alcohol, of course. That may be something you could adapt in the hospitality business. I think would be a good, you know, autographs for bill of fare.
Yeah. Well, there's so many stories in the business and the restaurant, but that's again why I think this is such a brilliant idea uh, what is the word that we use for it? It's a culinary espionage.
Yes.
I like, Tom, that you do teach through the message, but it's also filled with, as you said, romance. Humor is throughout, which, I'm it's a thriller, but I'm enjoying it. You know what I mean? It's like guilty pleasure. It's you're
Sure.
smiling, you're laughing. Really like the character. You really wrote a really great character, and hopefully we'll see more in the series, more of this character.
One of the
Did you want
comments
to
I
talk?
got, if I could just mention, one of the very, like, I couldn't believe I got this comment from the great mystery writer Walter Mosley, who uh, who did a blurb for the book, and he talks about some of the food stuff like the croquembouche and all that stuff. But he said in his comments, his little review, that he called this a Hitchcockian kind of thriller. And to me, that gets around to the character part. I want people to read this and say, "Oh my God, what if that was me?" And that's really the Hitchcock thing: is put
Mhm.
every man, every woman in a position of peril, and then say, "Okay, now what would you do?"
How often do you look at that perspective or consider that perspective when you're writing your characters?
Constantly,
And does it
constantly.
come naturally to you? Is that a natural thought process, or you've got to kind of stop and say, "Hey, am I appealing? Is this character relatable? Could
Yeah,
my reader imagine being or becoming them or standing in their shoes?"
I can tell you a turning point I had as a writer that led me to that, and it was a great lesson. This goes back, to the '80s, when I was just trying to break into sitcom writing, and a friend of mine who was a very successful one. Um, in fact, he's got an Emmy for Cheers, and he did MASH, and he did a lot of great shows. He said to me once, I do an improv workshop every Wednesday night at this little storefront in West Hollywood. He says, what I would suggest you do? Why don't you come and see if you can join the workshop? There's no money for it. It's like a bunch of people just gathering and doing improv for 2 hours. Um, but he said, here's the thing that you'll find invaluable. When you get up on that stage and you don't have a script and you are expected to perform in front of an audience, it forces you to become the character and think like the character. And so that you are in the position as a writer of understanding what it's like to inhabit an imaginary person. And that changed my writing henceforth. I mean, to answer your question, and I think your question is a brilliant one, it is on my shoulder all the time. And there are some times that I kind of veer away from it and I say, "Hey, get back to this. You're not sounding like the guy today."
Hmm. It's so powerful to think of it that way. And uh, what about this, Tom? What about, daily we put ourselves, each and every one of us, we put ourselves into boxes in a way, and we gate ourselves in what we can do and what we can't do, what's possible, what's not possible. What ab- how is being a writer for you? How has it given you freedom to not have any restrictions in life? I mean, do you look at the world a different way? Like, maybe in my day to day, I can't do that, but in my mind and my storytelling, I can take the reader and myself anywhere I want to go. Is there a
Yeah,
powerful freedom behind you
no,
and being a writer in your profession?
no doubt. And I'm a fairly structured person. I'm not like a wild man. There's a great quote from Henry Ford. It's I hope I get it right here. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And to me, that's how I've approached my life. That's how some might say I can't keep a job, but that's why I've done so many things, is that I find myself interested in something and I say, well, I don't have any real background in this, but I'm going to jump in and see what happens.
Hmm.
Um, so that's sort of the outer part, or or the bigger picture of a career. Actually, I would say to me, the key is not to have a career, is to have a bunch of jobs I like. And I think there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
But as a writer, the freedom is great. It's like no matter what is happening in my day, when I close the door and I sit down and uh, put my butt in the chair and go to work, um, it is really, really a special kind of I won't say a religious experience because it's not, but it is definitely a spiritual one. It is one where you can roam. You can say, "What if? What if I did
Yeah.
that? What if I did that? Or what if I decided I don't want to do it anymore? I'll take that out and I'll put this in instead." And it's kind of it's daunting, especially on those days when you don't have it. But another great quote from Picasso is that inspiration always comes, but you have to be working.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah.
I like that. So there's this Tom who's structured and Tom who, you're not a wild man, as you say,
Yeah.
but you can go wherever you want in your mind when you're creating, and you can live out some of those things that, maybe the day-to-day person couldn't get away with, but you can create
Right.
these mysteries, these thrillers, and we can all enjoy them. And I love storytellers. I love people like you that bring us stories. Such a gift, isn't it? That to be able to go into that room and then come out with a story that captivates and inspires and all these different things, teaches us as well.
We
Oh,
were talking earlier before we went live, is we were talking about libraries, and I do a lot of writing in libraries, and there is something truly that resonates with me, and that is being around books reminds me of the heritage of writing. I have all the electronics you could imagine to write with here, but I also begin my writing day with a fountain pen because there is something about looking at that bottle of ink and saying, "What's in there?"
mm,
And starting that way and recognizing that this is the way Victor Hugo wrote, this is the way Mark Twain wrote. Just go to all of those early writers that you try to keep the flame going, the raw flame.
there's something so great about that smell of that ink too, right out of that. I remember I used to use Higgins ink,
Yes.
and I would
It
dip in and I would draw with, and
doesn't
there's
taste
this. Sorry.
not too tasty, but
No, I don't think I tasted it, Tom.
I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah,
Attention, if children, if you're listening, do not do
do
that.
not do this at home. uh, Maybe does that inspire your creativity, Tom, to taste the ink?
No, no, but I would smell the mimeograph and I would smell the paste. I never ate paste, but I would.
Well, that might explain some of the plot twists, though.
It would.
Some
Yeah,
of the
where did that
criminal
come from?
acts, some of
I
those
don't
criminal
know.
acts. uh, I mean, you're just taking me back when you talk about a library and the books and the smell of the ink and the paper. I mean, I mean, how many of us smell and relate to that anymore? But that reminds me of being a kid and those. I mean, the smell of all that paper and that ink, and there's
Yeah,
something magical there too about storytelling that plays a part uh, in the whole process. I think the whole process of reading, the process of creating, the process of experiencing a story
sure.
that you just can't get off a glass iPad cover.
No,
Well,
no. And they're very hard to autograph too.
Tom, you are funny. You warned me. We gave out a warning in the beginning. Tom is funny. Tom, you're going to honor us with another passage from your new novel, The Accidental Joe: The Top Secret Life of a Celebrity Chef.
All right,
There's so much in that. Yeah, go ahead.
do a
Sorry.
setup on this. This is when celebrity chef Pike has a producer who just unexpectedly went into rehab. So he needs a producer fast. So he flew to New York to do a day of back-to-back, kind of like speed dating interviews with candidates for the producer job. He does not know it yet at this point of the book, but his first candidate is a CIA spy and she's got a secret motive for wanting to get the job. So here's a little slice of their interview, which I chose because it lets us know a little bit about her. Her name is Cami Nova, and she opened big. She said, "I won't be shy. This is my dream job. I've seen every episode of Hangry Globe twice. I've not only studied your show, I've studied you. I'm probably as big a fan as a person can be without getting hit with a restraining order." I laughed. "Funny," I said, "and with bite." She hitched a thumb toward the glass wall at the other candidates sitting in the waiting area. "I'd send them home now." And confident, too. "What have you heard about me?" She spread her arms. "I'm here." I rocked back in my chair. "I can be prickly, headstrong, depends on how you define it. I don't suffer fools or bullies, and I hate being lied to. But I never fire inside my own perimeter. If you're family, I'll take a bullet for you." I paused to appraise her reaction. "I'm still here," she said. "I need a producer with an eye for substance. That's the sweet spot of this show. I cook and I goof around, but I always balance it with a big dose of getting real. Like," she says, "like in Portugal, you surprised Emeril Lagasse by taking him to his grandfather's ancestral home and making him cry." Definite points there. I decided to test her rapid fire. Afghanistan, season 1. Nangarhar Province, you surprised a unit from Texas with home cooking. Specifically, burnt ends and beans. Ipanema, Gigolos, season 2. Tell me about the south of France. Season 1, finale. You made brunch for Bono and the Edge, and when you told Bono "Pride in the Name of Love," there's a song for you. See, "Pride in the Name of Love" was the
It's
most
a
powerful.
good song.
Yes, exactly right.
I love that song.
It's a great song. It's an anthem. When you told Bono "Pride in the Name of Love" was the most powerful musical tribute ever to Dr. King, he sang it and you teared up. I think it was more than just the song that moved you. You know me better than I do. She paused and smiled. Count on it.
Mm, so good. Did you read the version, the audio version of the book, Tom? Is that you that reads it?
I will be reading it. In fact,
That's
I'm
good.
booked. They gave me the thumbs up to do it last week, and so I will be spending the first week of June in a studio, 5 days a week from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. reading.
Long days, but man, you read that well. And I guess maybe are you calling back on your DJ voice a little bit
No doubt
when
about
you
it.
read?
No doubt about it.
So
It's like learning how to read the commercials without sounding like you're reading them. I mean, that was like a thing.
yeah.
The only thing I will say is that I wish to heck I didn't have so many foreign words in this book because I'm going to have to do Hungarian, I'm going to have to do Russian, I'm going to
Oh
do
yeah.
Norwegian. French I speak French, so that's no problem. But
Will you
um,
have someone help you with the pronunciation, or are you just gonna learn on your own?
I'll learn. I'll bone up. I'll
Okay.
go to Mr. Google and say,
Yeah.
say this.
Translation.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Tom, so since I've already imposing on you to read from the novel, The Accidental Joe is the name. That it's the top secret life of a celebrity chef. I've already imposed on you enough to read from the novel, which you do so well. Uh, but now I want to impose on you as go back to your humble beginnings as a DJ. Can you tell us? We're going to go out with "Live and Let Live" by Paul McCartney. Can you take us out and announce the song as if you were back in that DJ booth?
Yeah, what's tough with that song is it's what we call it a cold open. You have a little piano bang, and that's it. Yes, so here I am with Jeremiah D. Higgins, right? And we're on the Jeremiah Show, and I'd like you to introduce a newcomer to the business. I think he has a future. His name is Paul McCartney, and "Live and Let Die."
Oh, I love that. That's great. All right, go see Tom Straw in person on his website. You just go to events, tomstraw.com, events and tour dates. But for those of you we're in Boston, we're in New York, we are in Los Angeles. I just chose a date in Los Angeles. So if you're in the Hollywood area, in Hollywood, California, go meet Tom Straw. It's Tuesday, May 28th at 7 p.m. He's going to be at Book Soup. That's a great bookstore. And there aren't many of them left, but that's one of the top bookstores left in the country. Go check it out. Tom Straw. He's in a conversation with Ken Levine. They discuss his new novel, The Accidental Joe, Top Secret Life of a Celebrity Chef. Again, that's going to be Tuesday, May 28th at 7 p.m. at Book Soup on 8818 Sunset Boulevard. Go to with a website, booksoup.com, if you'd like, event /Tom Straw, or you can go to Tom Straw's website, tomstraw.com, and just click on the events and tour dates. There's quite a few in New York and all over the country. But I wanted to give out that one in Hollywood, California, near me. And I got to come down and see it, Tom. I got to get my copy autographed. We will be right back with more with Tom Straw, The Accidental Joe, the top secret life of a celebrity chef. Go to tomstraw.com. We'll be right back.